I call this special meeting of the Onslow Board of Commissioners to order. This is a special meeting because it has replaced our originally scheduled meeting because of inclement weather. To begin tonight, we'll have a word of prayer. Ms. Moxley.
Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, thank you for giving us another day on this good earth. We pray that you will bless all who are gathered here this evening. We give you thanks for the beautiful county in which we live and ask that you help us to conduct ourselves in such a way that by our service we demonstrate gratitude to the citizens of Onslow County for the work they have given us to do. Lord, be with the commissioners in their deliberations and grant them wisdom and strength in making the hard decisions that impact the lives of our citizens. Almighty God, we pray that you will comfort those who are suffering from emotional and physical domestic abuse. Please, Lord, give power to the powerless and give them courage to speak. May your grace and love remove all fear and anxiety and heal their wounds. Our Heavenly Father, so many people have been affected by the recent flooding created by Hurricane Joaquin. Our prayer is that you will bless and comfort each and every one of those who have suffered losses during this difficult time. We also ask that you protect the brave men and women of our armed forces who serve our country both here and abroad. Now, dear Lord, with deep respect for the faith, traditions, and beliefs of all who are gathered here tonight, hear us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. David Cotton, Deputy County Manager, will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for showing up tonight. It's good to have an audience to participate in our meetings. We have the sheriff with us. You're welcome. Glad to have you, Sheriff. If you have not turned your cell phones off, please do so at this time. If you wish to participate tonight with your public comments, there are a few regulations that are board's policy, and they are posted in the back of the room near the sign-up sheet. So please sign up and take a moment to read over the procedures. Briefly, I will just cover that there are two times that you can speak. There's a 3-minute opportunity at the beginning of the meeting, and you have to speak on agenda items. You're asked to come forward as your name is called. Please state your name and address for our clerk so she can note it for her records. At that time, make your comments to the board in its entirety. There is no audience participation permitted during your opportunity to make your presentation. We ask that all comments are civil, and the board reserves the opportunity to respond at commissioner comments at the end of the meeting. The second opportunity will be a 5-minute allotment of time, and that will come at the end of the meeting. And at that point in time, you can speak on any topic that this board has authority over. So, if there are no changes to the agenda, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. The consent agenda. The consent agenda is a concern to some because they don't understand what it entails. So I'm going to tell, the board has several mundane items, routine items that comes before us, such as disbursement of tax collections to the municipalities, ratifications of proclamations, approvals of the minutes. And those are the type of items that we put on the consent agenda. So at this time, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. This is the first public comment. Mr. Manager, do we have people signed up for the 3 minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair. There are individuals signed up for the first public comment period. During this first public comment period, there's a 3-minute time limit. In accordance with the Board's rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period at the end of the agenda. All comments must be directly issue-oriented with the agenda item on for this meeting during this first public comment period. The first individual that signed up is Mr. Thomas Marshburn of 163 Foy Lockamy Road. Mr. Marshburn, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Thank you. My family and I have been residents of Onslow County for many years. Growing up in my community, the sheriff's office was the law, as my family referred to them. The common place to see one of those distinguishable brown cars driving on our roadways in an effort to keep our community safer. However, it was often joked that you didn't have to worry about violating a traffic law because deputies wouldn't pull you over. My first real memory of a traffic accident was in high school. 2 of my closest friends were killed on Cawson Road, and 2 others nearly died with them, and it shook my school to the core, devastating my graduating class. I found a passion for traffic safety in my 4 years in law enforcement. I'm a certified radar operator of the Golden Eagle, Directional Golden Eagle 2, and Pro 1000. I joined the Sheriff's Office in March of this year, and in my short time here, I've responded to 3 traffic fatalities, a small portion of the 18 that our county has already seen since January. I've conducted over 300 traffic stops since I've been here as part of that mission. I'm not going to bore you with statistics as to why traffic enforcement is needed in our community. The sheriff and others over the last week have worked day and night to gather that information for you. What I wish to address is the commonplace thought process that it is not the responsibility of the sheriff's office to address the traffic problem. Surely the Highway Patrol is a great organization and has earned their place as a dedicated traffic enforcement unit. However, they are overwhelmed with the rapidly growing population. They do not have enough to cover this county. It has been stated by members of the community that traffic enforcement is not the responsibility of the sheriff's office, and I, for one, as many others, respectfully and strongly disagree with that notion. The office of sheriff is the most prevailing law enforcement office in our county. The sheriff and his deputies have the legal authority to enforce all state and local laws, including those within the motor vehicle statutes. With numbers like over 100 fatalities in 5 years, top 10 most dangerous roads in the state, and over 6,000 vehicle crashes in the last 5 years, it should no longer be an argument of whose responsibility it is. There is indeed a problem with Onslow County that laissez-faire politics in the past can only inflame. The problem is not political, it is public safety. Is politics going to continue to hinder efforts to prevent another highway death? This community demands from its leaders to address this issue, and it is time that we support our sheriff and his desire to make our roadways safer and give the deputies of his office the tools that they need to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marshburn. The next individual signed up is Bruno Perry of 310 Richmond Drive. Mr. Perry, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. I stand here today because, as a citizen of Onslow County, when I saw the last meeting in September and seen this issue addressed with the sheriff, I was really disgusted because I felt that Commissioner Bright made a proposal, and I thought it was appropriate. In I'm not a commissioner, obviously, but I'm concerned that 4 commissioners couldn't find the time to at least entertain a motion to consider the request by the sheriff. You know, I thought about writing a letter to the editor, but I've read a ton of letters this week from on this topic. And, you know, I support those letters totally. And I would just hope that this evening that you would take an opportunity at least to discuss it with the sheriff and come with your decision. As I understand, this money is not even coming out of the county. It's coming out of the county budget, but out of the sheriff's budget. So it's not even a matter of where's this money coming from. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. The next speaker is Wendy Brown of 221 Clearview Drive. Ms. Brown, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Hi. My name is Wendy Brown, 221 Clearview Drive in Holly Ridge. I am new to the county. I've been here since February. I moved here from out of state, from Oklahoma. My husband is a retired Navy corpsman, also a retired police officer. He was the chief of police, was the last position that he held when he retired. I've been around this environment most of my life. To not discuss something that the Sheriff's Department put on an agenda couldn't be more of a snub than anything that you could do as a county commissioner. Whether you wanted to vote for or against, that's up to you guys. But to not listen to something that he prepared. I homeschool my kids. They don't read the newspaper because we don't get it where we are. We live kind of out in the country. But they do read social media. They listen to the news. And my 10-year-old said, "Mom, why didn't they listen?" I have a sign on the back of my shirt that says, "What are you teaching here?" My kids are we're moving to a farm at the end of this month. My kids are, they're gonna be here. This is their future. The decisions that you make today, tomorrow, the next meeting, next year's meeting, decides what my kids have to deal with 10 years, 20 years down the road. How you conduct your business will determine what my children will have to deal with when they're in positions of wanting to be a commissioner or the chief of police or on the sheriff's department. What type of seeds are you sowing by just not listening? You're here to listen. That's your job. It's not your job to try to find out what's going on in the other counties, because you don't represent the people in the other counties. You represent the people here. So, you know, for the most part, for the last few months, I've been between Oklahoma and here trying to get moved, and I haven't been involved in the commissioners' meetings or the things going on in politics. I've been around it my whole life. I kind of know what's going on, but I'm here, and my kids are going to be involved, and I expect you guys to do your job just like I'm going to do mine.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. If I may pause for just a moment, I would like to apologize for the technical difficulties that the staff in the production room are having. Everyone's comments are being captured by the microphone and are fine for television. The reason we're having a little bit of problem is because normally when we have a commissioners meeting, we do not open the walls on the sides of this chamber. We only have one room open. And by opening all three rooms, because we did expect a larger than normal attendance this evening, it has changed the sound system. This is our first meeting with all three rooms open. But I trust that we do have that situation resolved in the back now before we call the next individual. The next person to call is Gene Ennett of 243 Clay Hall Road, Sneads Ferry. Mr. Ennett, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Honorable Commissioners, Sheriff Miller and your staff, and the Onslow County concerned citizens that have attended here tonight. I'm Gene Ennett, and I was born in Onslow County 63 years ago and retired from the North Carolina State Highway Patrol 14 years ago. However, I remain a strong advocate of law enforcement, traffic safety, and protecting and serving the citizens in the county in which I choose to reside. In a recent survey across the United States of America, there were 42,000 individuals killed and 3.2 million individuals injured in traffic collisions and excessive speed was a contributing factor in 1/3 of those collisions. The presence of speed or excessive speed in traffic collisions causes two major problems. Number one, it reduces the response time of the operator of the vehicle. And number two, or secondly, it also increases the severity of the crash. As the severity increases, the likelihood of a fatality or serious injury also increases. And the point I want to make here tonight is whether it be a highway patrolman, a deputy sheriff, or a policeman from one of the municipal departments here in Onslow County, whatever task they may perform, whatever task that they're thought to perform, first and foremost, they are law enforcement officers. Law enforcement officers take an oath. And for any citizen or any governing body to suggest that a deputy sheriff not enforce traffic laws is also suggesting that that officer not adhere to the oath that they took. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Ennett. The next individual that signed up to speak is Kevin O'Connor of 210 Newport Drive, Jacksonville. Mr. O'Connor, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
Kevin O'Connor, 210 Newport Drive, Jacksonville. Good evening, Commissioners. It's been a while. Ms. Williams, nice to meet you. Jeff, good to see you. The radar equipment is nothing more than a tool. It's a tool to catch bad guys. When I went back and I looked at the proposed budget, and I looked at the number of not only jailers but sheriff's deputies that Sheriff Miller was looking for, and then I look at what it is that he got, it appears to me, and then you look at the statistical information, it appears to me that you're not only not giving him the personnel, but you're not giving him the equipment that he needs in order to catch the bad guys. 30 years ago, there were 6 deputies on duty at night. 30 years later, today, there's 9. Then when you look at all the statistical information that's out there, he needs some additional tools in order to catch the bad guys. You know I don't like coming in here without doing some research. Going off of what I'm being told, which I don't like to do, but it's a pretty reliable source, I was told that the radar equipment is a significant crime reducer because it helps catch the bad guys. That's what we want to do. We want to catch the bad guys. When we go back and we look at the money aspect of this, and I traced it back to the jail is generating somewhere about $1.6 million in revenue, and that's between the state and the federal government and what it is that the other counties are paying into the jail. And when I went back to 2006, the jail was supposed to pay for itself in regards to the money being saved going to the other counties, as well as the additional revenue coming from the other counties. But when I went back and looked at it, the money that's being generated from the jail, even though you are giving the sheriff's department somewhere around $600,000, that money's going back into the general fund. But then when I talk to Sheriff Miller, and he tells me that the county has a chance of being sued based off of the number of, or lack of number of appropriate personnel in the jail, and I look at the funding issue, it tells me that the money that's generating it should be going back into the entity that's doing it, and then the additional money should be going into the sheriff's department because they're the ones that's generating the money. And I said that a little screwed up, but you understand what I'm saying. The bottom line is it's a tool to catch bad guys. He doesn't have the personnel, he doesn't have the cars, so my question is, in looking at the manpower of a 29-minute response time for average response time and a 14-minute response time for a priority 1, that's an awful long time for a deputy to be out there. And there's law enforcement officers, former law enforcement officers sitting on the council right now. So let's just give them some tools that they need, and then let's start working up so we can get them some more officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. The next individual that signed up to speak is Dee Dee Daub of 530 Old 30 Road. Ms. Daub, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 3 minutes.
If you listen to Thunder Country, you may remember that the chairwoman called in and she second-guessed the sheriff on procedure and response times, which she indicated were already too long.
Our rules of procedure say you address the board in its
I'm addressing the
entirety.
entire board.
Continue then.
Had the BOC, the Board of Commissioners doesn't have any any procedural jurisdiction over the sheriff's office at all. Additionally, the sheriff originally requested funds to add 14 deputies to the office and was denied. Apparently, response times were not a concern a few months ago. Another question that came up is how many other sheriff offices in North Carolina enforce traffic law? Again, not irrelevant. This is really irrelevant because it's not the board's jurisdiction how the sheriff's office is run. The sheriff's office did the math anyways, called all 99 counties. 78 of the North Carolina sheriff offices use radar. 2 have county police departments that use radar and traffic law enforcement. And 20 counties' sheriff's offices do not use radar, but if you look at their populations, you might understand why. 70% of the county elected Hans Miller as sheriff because we trusted him to be the highest law enforcement officer in the county. We trust him with our tax dollars. We trust him to allocate resources the way that they need to be. And we trust him to have the proper equipment at all times to keep us safe and to protect our roads and our children and our grandchildren. So now that he is asking for a signature for a grant that he has the money to match funds on, he is being denied a signature. Not only was he denied a signature, but at the last meeting, we were denied the right to be part of that discussion. And I think it was a slap in the face to the sheriff's office and to the constituents that elected most of you on the board to represent us. So I'm glad that, and I'd like to thank 2 of the commissioners for putting this back on the agenda today so that we can be part of the discussion and make sure that our sheriff's office has the equipment that they need to protect and keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes the number of individuals that have signed up for the first public comment period.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Would you like to take the next 2 items, item 4 or 5?
Yes, ma'am. Item 4, presentations. Proclamation. 2 proclamations have been prepared this evening. The first is United Way of Onslow County. At this time, I'll read the proclamation into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, United Way of Onslow County. Whereas since February 1, 1955, the United Way of Onslow County has been dedicated to inspiring hope and creating opportunities for a better life in our community, and whereas the United Way of Onslow County mobilizes community resources through collaboration with local businesses, governments, nonprofits, and individuals to meet community needs. And whereas the United Way of Onslow County currently funds 34 community investment programs within 14 of their partner agencies. Through these programs, they advance the common good by focusing on nurturing children, strengthening families, improving health, guiding youth, and helping in times of crisis. And whereas the United Way of Onslow County 2015-2016 annual campaign is underway and is only able to impact the many individuals because of the generosity of the Onslow County residents it serves. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the Onslow County Board of Commissioners does hereby congratulate the United Way of Onslow for their 60 years of continued service to the community and encourages all citizens to support United Way of Onslow County. Through this campaign, we all have the opportunity to live united and make a major impact in Onslow County. Presented this day of 2015, signed by Chairman Barbara Eichner, witness Julie Wand, clerk to the board. Mr. Craig Wagner, President, Chief Professional Officer of United Way of Onslow County, will accept the proclamation. Chairman Eichner requests that Commissioner Williams present the proclamation. Commissioner Williams.
Good evening, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to have everyone here this evening. But I would just like to say to Mr. Craig Wagner, I didn't know you prior to you moving away from Onslow County and going on to school. But all I can say is that I thank God that you had the burden to come back to serve this population. And what you have done in this community speaks volumes for your leadership, your abilities, your tenacity, your expertise, and you have truly been a transformational agent in this community. So on behalf of the Onslow County Board of Directors, we'd like to say thank you for the good work, and we acknowledge your works, and don't leave us. I hope that's nowhere in the stars, okay?
Well, not at this time.
Okay.
Great.
So I'd like to have some words from you as well.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Williams, and thank you to all commissioners for this proclamation as well as your partnership with United Way over the years. We're both excited and grateful as this year marks our 60th anniversary with United Way, and it's all due to the generosity of the citizens of this very caring community. From our CHEW program that provides backpacks of meals for kids who would otherwise go hungry, and to our Solutions for Stability program, which has decreased childhood homelessness by 34% in 2.5 years. Our ability to move the needle on critical community issues is due to those in the room, the supporters in our community, the support from our electeds, and we're just so grateful for your support for our campaign that kicked off last week. So thank you all, and thank you again.
Thank you again,
Yep.
sir.
The second presentation this evening is also a proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. At this time, I'll read the proclamation into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow Proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence transcends racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic borders, its perpetrators harm their victims, endanger children, traumatize families, and threaten communities. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and abuse. And whereas breaking this vicious criminal cycle requires not only the strength of survivors, but also the support and participation of community members. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month is a time to reflect on the responsibilities of communities and citizens to build healthy, thriving families free from the threat of violence. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners urges its citizens to recognize October 2015 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Onslow County, and to reach out to victims and help end domestic violence in our community. Signed, Barbara Eichner, Chairman. Attested, Julie Wan, Clerk to the Board. Mr. Junie Christian, Executive Director of the Onslow Women's Center, will accept the proclamation. Chairman Eichner will present the proclamation. Chairman Eichner.
I was hoping by this time this year that we would have eradicated domestic violence. But that is a foolish hope, because unfortunately, it seems to be increasing. And the dignity that the people that are involved in domestic violence lack is because they have nowhere to turn. They are trapped in a situation of helplessness. And thank God that we here in Onslow County have the Women's Shelter and such citizens as Junie that put their life out there every day to promote the sanctity of life. These people have little lives that they are trying to raise. Their life is already destroyed, and we are raising another generation of little lives that don't know how to cope without violence in them. So I would hope that through the well wishes of our citizens and our efforts of people at the Women's Shelter, that we could make a difference in maybe just one or two of these desperate lives. Junie, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work you do. Thank you so much.
Every day that I get up and I look in the mirror, I'm reminded of why I have this beard. I have this beard because for the last 7 years in the county of Onslow, we have killed a woman every year for the past 7 years. This past year, in July, you had a terrible, terrible month. That's the bad news. The next time you see me and I don't have this beard, it will mean one thing. It would mean that our county, you, the partnership of the police department, the sheriff, it would mean that I can shave this beard and we have had no fatalities as a result of domestic violence in our county. That would be a wonderful day. The other thing that I could tell you is that if you reduce the incidences of fatality of domestic violence, you will also reduce murders in your county, because most of those murders are due to domestic violence. So, the good news is this. In your infinite wisdom, years ago, over 33 years ago, you provided a safe place somewhere in this county for victims of domestic violence to go. 188 of those folks went through the shelter this past year and are now survivors. Through the partnership with the United Way, the most difficult of those victims now have a place for them to stay on their own. So what am I asking you to do this month? 4 very important things. I know most of you know someone who has been a victim of domestic violence. I know at least 1 out of 4 women in this room perhaps has been a victim of domestic violence. I want you to mourn. Mourn the lives of those that we've lost across North Carolina and the 4 that we've lost this year in our county. Celebrate. Remember the goodness in the heart of those folks that you remember that are victims. And the final thing I'd like you to do is to save the next victim. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Onslow Women's Center, I thank the commissioners for their continued financial support, prayers on the part of the citizens. I thank you for supporting the Onslow Women's Center. And do not forget, this week, we're going to have a great celebration for those of you who already have tickets to Dancing Stars of Jacksonville. Thank you very much.
Let's give him a big hand.
That concludes item 4 presentations. Moving on to item 5, general items. A, Health Department Medical Records Scanning. Ms. Angela Lee, Health Director, will be available to present this item and answer questions of the board. Ms. Lee.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. In the fiscal year 15-16 budget, the Health Department received approval for funding to complete document imaging of medical health records. We received 4 proposals from 4 companies. And after reviewing the proposals as well as checking the references, it's requested that the contract be awarded to CST Data in the amount of $195,000 at 5 cents per page. I would respectfully request that the Board of Commissioners award the contract to CST Data in the amount of $195,000. If approved, authorize the chairman to execute the contract documents on behalf of the county. And I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have tonight.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. Any questions, any discussion for Ms. Lee?
Angela, is this money in the budget?
Yes,
Your
sir.
budget? There's no new money? No new money?
Angela, some of these documents through the Health Department, they're unlike documents in any of our other departments. Some have to be maintained on paper. Is that accurate? Or are we trying to move towards a paperless department?
Yes, this is definitely the directive that we were given by Mr. Hudson, as well as health departments around the state have to transition to electronic medical records, and this would be our first step, is scanning of our old records have been completed already. These are our active records, so that once we get our electronic medical record system, these can be uploaded into that system, and then we could continue on and have a fully electronic system. So we would be paperless as we move forward.
Okay, great. Any further discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I do have a question.
Sure.
And that is because I'm assuming long-term, I'm thinking of an example of, maybe a child in the hospital here, or maybe records that you maintain here, but maybe they're out of state. can those records be transferred to that out-of-state physician to help with making medical decisions?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. All records have a way of being shared.
Thank you.
If there's no other, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Angela.
Next item is B, surplus property offer to purchase. On September 8th, 2015, the county received an offer from a citizen in the amount of $100 to purchase surplus land located on Pickett Road. It is referred to as parcel number 012172, map number 333-2, and has a current tax value of $100. The county acquired this parcel in 2007 through the foreclosure process. The property is 0.22 of an acre in size and consists of a long, narrow dirt road that provides access to lots and homes in that area. The statutes allow the county to sell property that no longer serves a public purpose and is uneconomical or inefficient. The county's standard practice has been to sell surplus property using the method authorized under General Statute 168-269, which is the negotiated offer, advertisement, and upset bid process. This process allows for other interested parties to submit offers on the property after it has been advertised. Once the county goes 10 full days without any upset bids after it has been advertised, the final offer is brought back to the board for final consideration. Ms. Leslie Moxley, County Attorney, is available to answer questions the board may have. The specific action requested is that the Board of Commissioners consider award of the initial offer of $100 and, if approved, authorize the purchasing director to conduct the sale using the negotiated offer, advertisement, and upset bid process that was described earlier.
What's the board's pleasure?
I got a question.
Let's get a motion.
Motion
first,
to
okay.
approve.
Second? Second. Okay, now discussion.
I got a question about it's a long dirt road, and it's got, it gives people that live there access to the homes. If it becomes back into private property or private ownership, how will that affect the people that use the road to get to their homes and houses?
Commissioner Bright, you're correct. It is a private driveway. It was created to provide access to those properties along it. Unfortunately, the developer, when he created the private driveway, actually platted it as a separate piece of property. It was foreclosed. The county cannot maintain it because we do not have authority over private driveways, and so it's going to be returned to an adjoining property owner, I believe. They can contribute to the maintenance of it, but the county cannot expend public funds on it. It will be up to those adjoining property owners to get together and maintain it, and the person who is purchasing it would be responsible for maintaining it in whatever condition. There's no minimum standard, though, for maintaining that private drive.
Will the new owner be able to put up barricades and just close the road if they choose to?
If it's the only access way, they do have to keep it open.
You know, Leslie, we get phone calls all the time. As a matter of fact, I think I had one last week or so about an area in the Hubert subdivision in the Hubert area whose roads have fallen into disarray. And I don't think the citizens comprehend that we don't own any roads by the county, and we don't maintain any roads. This road obviously is a dirt road, and the likelihood that it's going to be brought to DOT standards and turned over as a dedicated road is pretty unlikely. Is there any restrictions that we can put that the road has to be maintained in a passable manner, or is it just an upset bid and they take it and we hope that they do right by their neighbors?
We're the owner. We can go back and look at that. That has not been asked of us. Basically, what they would do is, once they get title to the property, we would hope that they would maintain it. The county can put restrictions on property. I don't know what the desirability of the upset bid process would be to someone with those restrictions on it, but we can certainly go back and look at it and bring this back to you at the next meeting.
Well, maybe that would just be a conversation as we go through this process that we could have with the person desiring to purchase the piece of property.
When the purchasing director returns, I will have that conversation, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there any further?
And the reason I was asking about it is, and I'm sure Norm Bryson, our EMS director, can tell you, we've got roads in the county that are not maintained by anybody. And when the rescue squad or fire service tries to get down those roads, they just unpassable. And the people are calling us to try to help them. Of course, just like it's been said, we don't have those roads under our jurisdiction, so we can't maintain them. But I would hope that this owner, whoever the new owner will be, will maintain that road so the other properties can use them, and maybe they can contribute some way or another to keep them maintained.
If there's no further, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Item C, Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department tanker purchase. Mr. Norman Bryson, Emergency Management Director, will be available to present this item and answer questions of the board. Mr. Bryson.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here on the behalf of Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department this evening. They're in the process of purchasing a brand-new 2016 tanker from KME FES, and those initials are the manufacturer's names. The total cost of the tanker is $257,237. Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department was awarded a $30,000 matching grant for this tanker from the North Carolina Department of Insurance 2015 Fire Fund grant. The amount, with the department funds as well as the grant, they are going to put a down payment of $100,237 down for this vehicle. The amount to be financed is $157,000. They're seeking a loan for the apparatus through a company named Leasing to Inc. Section 147 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 requires the volunteer fire department to take several steps for the purchase of the apparatus. First is to hold a public hearing. The public hearing was advertised in the Daily News on September 9th, 2015, and held on September 24th, 2015 at the Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department. In addition to the notice and the public hearing requirements, Belgrade must also obtain approval from the Onslow County Board of Commissioners, acknowledging the department's intent to enter into the debt arrangement. The approval of the Onslow County Board of Commissioners does not create liability on the part of the county, nor does it make the county responsible for repayment of the debt. Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department is currently under a service contract with Onslow County and is performing to the terms and conditions of the contract. Financing Lending is asking for a letter from the Onslow County Board of Commissioners indicating the approval from the county, acting through its Board of Commissioners at a meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Fire Rescue Commission has reviewed this and approved it on the September 17th meeting, and now to be sent before the Board of Commissioners. We're respectfully requesting that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners consider authorizing the chairman to send a letter of approval to Leasing to Inc. in order for Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department to purchase the apparatus.
Board's pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Second. Norm, just to make it perfectly clear, there will be no liability or responsibility to the county on this purchase.
That is correct, ma'am. The liability goes back to the incorporation of Belgrade Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions?
Well, for the benefit of the audience and the people watching, explain to them why that the fire department has to have endorsement from the county.
Well, it's a requirement of the lending agency to ensure that the agency has a contract with the county and is receiving funds on a regular basis. And of course, this is to make sure that they're actually paying for that vehicle and have income to pay for that vehicle.
It's also IRS.
Yes, yes, sir. As I said earlier, it's the Internal Revenue Service requirements.
Is there any further? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Norman.
Item D, Rural Operating Assistance Program Grant. Ms. Carol Hurst Long, OUT's Executive Director, is available to present this item and answer any questions the Board of Commissioners may have. Ms. Long.
Good evening. Madam Chairperson, Mr. Vice Chair, and other members of the Board of Commissioners, I appreciate so much having the opportunity to present this grant to you. The ROPE program is a state-funded public transportation grant program administered by North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Public Transportation Division. ROPE consolidates the Elderly and Disabled Transportation Assistance Program, ETAP, the Employment Transportation Assistance Program with employment, and the Rural General Public Transportation, which we refer to as RGP, into a single application package. Onslow County is eligible to receive the total amount of funding of $217,469 for the fiscal year 15-16. The allocation consists of ETAP, $88,743, and that's 100% state funds. Employment, $38,407, 100% of state funds. And the RGP is $90,319 with a 90% state funds and 10% local match, which is met through the fairs and through Onslow County, through OUT's budget. I respectfully request the Board of Commissioners to consider approval of this grant, and if approved, authorize the manager to sign the associated documents. Any questions? I'd be glad to.
Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Long? I'll just ask, Carol, I know a couple years ago the state cut the funding. Have you ever gotten back up to the level that you did previously receive?
No, ma'am. This year, the grant was cut also. With our EdTap, we were cut about $2,000. With employment, about $4,000. And that is really a challenge for us for employment. And then our rural general public was cut $8,000. But we're working on seeing what we can do. We're in an urbanized area, and all of this, being in an urbanized area affects our allocation through the census. And that's how we're provided the funding from the state.
So the request for services has not decreased in the least?
No, ma'am. We increased 9% last year.
I know. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
The next item is item E, Airport Advisory Commission Term Extensions. Mr. Chris White, our Airport Director, is here to present this item to the Board, including 4 options that the Commissioners have before them to decide. Mr. White.
Good evening, Commissioners. The Airport Advisory Board is comprised of 7 community members and 1 Commissioner liaison, with the mission of advising the Airport Director as well as the Board of Commissioners on issues related to the operation and development of the county's Albert J. Ellis Airport. Each of the board members brings technical, business, and/or user experience to the board, and during this period of unprecedented growth and development, the Airport Advisory Board has played a vital role. Maintaining continuity during this period of development is desirable to avoid costly and unnecessary changes and delays. The terminals recently opened, however, additional work remains. 2 positions recently became vacant, and several members' terms are set to expire. This may result in a significant change to the advisory board. On December 17, 2012, the Board of Commissioners extended the terms of Airport Advisory Board members by 2 years to ensure consistency and direction. On September 30th, 2015, this extension expired, and the Airport Advisory Board has requested that 1 additional 1-year extension be granted to allow for completion of all major elements of the terminal area redevelopment program. The specific action requested is the Commissioners are respectfully requested to consider an approval of one of the four following options. Option 1, which is a one-year extension of all seats, which maintains staggered terms at 2, 2, and 3 members, which was recommended by the Airport Advisory Board. Option 2, which is a one-year extension of the 3 seats expiring September 30th, 2015, which will create a 5-member, 2-member staggered term for the remaining seats. Option 3, which is a 3-year extension for the seats expiring 2015, which yields a 2-member, 2-member, 3-member staggered term. Or option 4, which is to leave as is.
What's the board's pleasure? Is there a option that one would like to set forth in a motion?
I would like to ask Millionaire to make a suggestion to that, because that's her board.
Thank you, sir, because I was about to do that as
Okay.
well. Thank you. And my suggestion is the option 1, because the importance of having people on a board and to have a level of consistency and information being provided is critical to the operations of the board and to the airport. So I fully support a motion be made for option 1 to approve that for the commission.
I would second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any need for discussion?
I don't have any, just have a comment about wanting to thank you and the board and Mr. Cotton for getting the USO office open this week, and it's been a big hit with the military people coming in and out. Thank you much for getting that, Chris.
Oh, we're very excited. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to adopt option 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item F, Governor's Highway Safety Program Grant for 10 new radar units. Sheriff Hans Miller is available to present this item to the board and answer any questions the board may have. Sheriff Miller.
Greetings, Honorable Board, Honorable Commissioners. I would like to thank each and every one of you for reconsidering and putting this item back on the agenda. It is something that is really needed in our county. This county has an opportunity to return Onslow County taxpayer money back to our county. The opportunity to return $18,750 to the Onslow County. Matching funds, about $6,000, will be coming from the Sheriff's Office budget, equipment budget. There is no need from the Board of Commissioners to allocate that money. It's already budgeted for. There will be a saving to our taxpayer money of $18,750 for needed equipment. The grant is for a regular replacement of existing speed measuring equipment. 8 existing units will be going out of service next year. The replacement is needed in order to comply with the law of the state of North Carolina. There are no speed guns. Radar speed measuring equipment is the proper term, and there's no financial impact on Onslow County taxpayers, only benefits. The highway safety should be all in our list of priorities. More data is available over violent crime. We lose many people on our highways, much more than to rape, robbery, homicides, and a loss is a loss. We should consider that. On September 23rd, 14 days ago, I sent an email to all commissioners asking for their questions and concerns. Data that was provided to the board per your request was as follows. We had 18 deaths, location, the dates, and whether they were DWI related, DWI meaning driving while impaired, related, in the county only, not in the municipalities. 18 fatalities. This information was provided to the board, every member of the board, by spreadsheet. The staff worked very hard to get those details and that data. The question was posed, the number of sheriff's offices in North Carolina that use radar speed measuring equipment. In North Carolina, we found out that 78 county sheriffs have speed enforcement. 2 of those counties, 2 additional counties, because they have county police, which would be Mecklenburg and the Gaston County. They also use speed measuring devices. So 80 counties do speed enforcement for the proper reason. The other 20 counties are much smaller and rely on the State Highway Patrol. The other question that was asked, the court appearances, is the salary impacted by deputies going to court to defend the ticket that they issued out? This requires a long research. When you ask me a question, I like to answer it truthfully, and it would have to go back to every single ticket to find out whether it was pled out or whether the officer had to go to court. However, let the board know that the court days are assigned to officers on their regular day shift. So typically, it would not impact the officers because they would be on duty anyway. Court continuances are possible in case of attorney not being able to be present or whatever reason. And then, you know, if an officer is subpoenaed, then obviously the officer has to provide and come in maybe on a day off. But the sheriff's office will consider flexible time to keep the salary reasonable. Honorable Board, citizens' complaints have been received from the Sneads Ferry, the Richlands, the Southwest, the Hubert, Belgrade, and other areas, White Oak area as well. Those complaints, speed, careless and reckless, some of those are received by telephone, driving while impaired, other traffic violations. Speeding through the neighborhoods where children are playing. Something must be done. Speeding through school zones and around school buses. Something must be done. We have Highway Patrol. They do a fantastic job. They should be given kudos for what they do, but there is not enough troopers in our county to keep the people safe. The sheriff of Onslow County, myself, I will listen to the citizens. My responsibility, my obligation, which I take very seriously, and I've took an oath to protect and to defend, is to make sure that the citizens will be listened to, and this is one of the areas that I listen to. I like to be open, I like to be transparent, because the people must know. The North Carolina State Highway Patrol does need our assistance. Loss of life and limb, injuries, and economic loss. Higher insurance premiums occur in counties where collisions occur more frequently. The actuaries, insurance actuaries, have a mathematical formula to determine that. That is really not something we can control. Other concerns that have been voiced by the people, there will be no quotas. I don't impose any quotas on my officers. My officers are out there performing the duty to make sure that this county, the people that live here, the people that visit here, are properly served, and the highways and other things will be maintained. No quotas imposed. There will be no revenue agenda. I do not interfere with my officers on duty. Whether they give a warning ticket, whether they give a court ticket, depends on every single situation. I consider the action, the enforcement action, to be between the officer that sees the violation and then the court, in case of a court ticket is issued. I do not pull tickets. I will let the people know. I will not interfere with my officers doing their job on duty. So court tickets or warning citations are proper. If a warning citation is issued, you know, maybe somebody will be take that for action, and safety will be increased. The issue of speed traps has been voiced. Entrapment is against the law. Entrapment, I have a legal definition of entrapment, which I will share with the board if you like, but it will not happen on my administration. There will be no impact on officer salaries unless the case is continued, and then we will consider flex time. We have a poll which was open to the public. The majority of citizens that responded to the poll were in favor of this grant. This grant is taxpayer money. It comes from the federal government to the Governor's Highway Safety Commission. I respectfully ask, first of all, again, I want to thank the board for hearing this, and I'm open for any questions that you may have. If you have any detailed questions that may require further research, we'll provide that to you, but I respectfully ask that this grant to be approved. The $6,000 will save us $18,700. Board, I'm available for any questions.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Approve. I have a motion and a second. At this time, we're open for discussion. Does any commissioners have questions they'd like to ask?
Sounds like to me, and I'm going to be very blunt, we need county police.
We have two
Not an
county-
extension of the sheriff's department, but a county police. I think it's time we might want to look at that. I brought this up a long time ago in conversations with a lot of different people, and some of them are even in this room today, some of them that are a little bit upset with this board over giving you these radar. That's not the issue here. The issue here is personnel, and the issue with the personnel is a lot of different issues. And I'm not going to go into those, but I think maybe we need to start looking at county police.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner, I will answer that question or that comment. I heard that you had a vision to start a county police, but remember, the county police does not work for the sheriff.
That is correct. No politics.
The sheriff works for the people,
Correct.
and I respond to the people.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
Madam Chair, I've got, and I know we don't need to spend the night here, but
Take your time.
I've got, I had to write some things down because it was quite a bit of information, because this is very critical for all of us here. And I spent days and hours making, I can't tell you how many phone calls to get information from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. And in talking with a lot of law enforcement, I heard feelings, thoughts, opinions on both sides. And I spoke with experts in law enforcement and others. And I submit to you, Sheriff, if your idea is to change the philosophy and direction of the Sheriff Department, you certainly have the authority to do just that. However, in exercising prudent financial decisions, here's my recommendation to you if you're truly serious about taking on this endeavor and being effective and reducing the number of traffic infractions, which at times causes fatal deaths, and we understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the most effective way we would be able to do this and take this on is to develop a comprehensive plan of action that would consist of hosting a meeting, inviting all the subject matter experts and stakeholders to the table that are affected by traffic fatalities in Onslow County. Invite the chief of police from all the municipalities, DOT, Onslow Memorial Hospital, traffic engineers, EMS, firefighters, ABC board, different coalition groups that lobby against deaths that are caused by drunk drivers, etc. And this will allow us to maximize and utilize all our resources as a county. Let's make a decision to benefit all the citizens as we maximize our efforts in a collaborative effort to spearhead the problem with all those that deal with the problem in their daily functions. And I will tell you, I am so glad you brought this matter forward, because it really caused me to go deep. And I tell you, out of my time of serving here as a county commissioner, I haven't spent as much time as I have spent on this, really delving into information that is so important. And I know when you and I were on the radio and I'd asked you about, your future plans, and the vision you have is the traffic division. And I've been told in order to operate a successful traffic division, there are 3 E's that exist, which are education, enforcement, and engineering. I had the opportunity to speak with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety and found out that there are 18 troopers allocated to Onslow County, and that does not include the 2 sergeants and 1 first sergeant. So there are 21 troopers that cover Onslow County. Onslow County covers 763 square miles, in which you must reduce the military square miles and Hoffman Forest. But then we need to look at roadway miles, which is really what we're dealing with here, and which you would have to adhere to, looking at the 21 troopers to cover a total of 854.65 roadway miles, and that's information from DOT that I received. I've also been told by law enforcement in the hierarchy that running radar is a short-term effect, which lasts approximately a couple of weeks, if that long. If we put more radar guns out into the public, are we truly solving the problem? After reviewing the facts, the data, the multiple calls of North Carolina Department of Public Safety, DOT representatives, resident experts in the field, law enforcement of all rank and file, constituents, and the many emails I received, as well as others. My final question to you, Sheriff, is how will creating this traffic division impact the residents of Onslow County long-term? How will we pay for this long-term? In order to run and operate a traffic division, I spoke with a chief, and I was told it's millions of dollars. Equipment, salaries, vehicles, training, certifications, recertifications. No, not true? And, so I guess for me, after listening to all sides, and I also thank each of you sitting in this audience today, this evening, I appreciate all the comments that you've brought forth, and I understand we've got different silos here of perceptions. We have the emotions that run high, which I totally understand that. And God forbid if I had a family member that was killed, trust me, I get that. There's also a business side of this as well. And looking at all the research that I did all my own, I feel that we need to come to the table as a county and get all the stakeholders at the table. Let's really delve into this thing. Let's really go after this thing. If this is really what you want to do, we've got a beautiful facility here. Invite these stakeholders and bring them all together. And let's see what comes out of that discussion in order to really facilitate and be effective at doing what we need to do for the citizens of Onslow County. Thank you, Sheriff.
Honorable Commissioner, I respect your opinion. You were misinformed.
Okay.
We're not putting any more equipment out there. We are replacing equipment that is existing at this time.
I will ask that the room be cleared if we do not sit quietly and listen to the conversation.
You know, what I was saying, I'm talking about the long-term effect. I clearly understand exactly, you know,
Let
the
me also-
replacement.
Yes.
I totally understand
And,
that.
and I respect you. Let me also clarify, the issue of this grant is entirely different from the vision of creating a traffic unit. It may be necessary in the future. This has not been, it has been brought out during the budget meeting. However, I understand and I respect, and I am fiscally conservative. I don't want my taxes to go up, okay? So absolutely, it's something that only has to be done if it needs to be done. So let's keep the traffic unit separate. This is a vision for the future if we need it. However, this grant has nothing to do with the creation of a traffic unit. We currently have those radar speed measuring devices in vehicles. They are going to be out of date next year, okay? So what we have is we have the opportunity to get $18,750 of taxpayer money from the federal and state government to bring to Onslow County to keep us from having to put it in the budget next year. Nothing will change in our procedure, and I think the board will agree that the sheriff is not, well, let me put it this way. I don't tell the board your mission. It is not proper for the board to tell the sheriff the mission. I listen directly to the people who elected me, and I'm out in the public, and I listen to them. So those are my bosses, 193,000, roughly speaking.
Sheriff?
Those are the people I listen to.
Sheriff, how long has the Sheriff Department been operating speed radars and electronic devices?
I like to answer accurately. I know that they were doing traffic enforcement last year. I assume they were doing traffic enforcement the year before. Those things will not change. And the traffic unit is something totally different. So this is existing. The issue of response times was brought up. This does not affect response times because a lot of times an officer, a deputy gets to a call, they do the proper thing, they take a report, then they provide the report, and that's the course of their duty. In between calls, they're on the highway, they're patrolling, they're seeing things. Then somebody may call somebody speeding through a neighborhood or whatever. In between calls does not affect response times. Commissioners, the priority is going to be to go into the citizen's call. So response times will not be affected.
How many people have approximately have called and complained about people speeding in the communities and speeding in the neighborhoods and ask you to do something about it? And you have to refer some of them, I'm assuming, to the Highway Patrol.
Yeah, in order to have an accurate number, I would have to, budget for a person that keeps track of statistics like that, which I don't have. When a citizen calls me or calls one of my staff, my patrol commanders, my watch commanders, or through 911, reporting a violation, then, we don't have any way to really keep track of everything. That would take extensive research and a lot of manpower and time to do. But it's very frequent. So the people want us out there. When we get a call from, give you an example, at the last town hall meeting, which I like to listen to the people. I like to be accessible to the people. At the last town hall meeting in Hubert, it was told to myself and my staff that there is a speeding problem going on in Sand Ridge in Hubert, okay? That is not the only place that this is going on. In Sneads Ferry, 172, Highway 172, Highway 210, there are speeding issues going on. Yes, we have troopers, but we will work in concert, in cooperation with the Highway Patrol to to make this county a little bit safer. And Commissioner, you also said something about education. We're very in tune with the need for education. That's why we go on base where there's a lot of young drivers from other states, and we educate them about, North Carolina state laws and so forth. So we are up on that. And do I have an exact number, Mr. Commissioner? I don't.
How many, I've heard a theory tonight I hadn't heard before. How many people or how many officers would it take in your estimation and your calculations to create a county police department to do traffic enforcement? And I'm assuming they would do accident investigation and everything.
It would. It would be a big budget issue for the Onslow County because they would have a whole different hierarchy than the sheriff's office. And you would have to have almost like a duplication of issues like training, of personnel, of hiring, of promotions, and all that. It just, it's a duplication of efforts.
There's 2 counties, did you say there was 2 counties that currently have county police?
Yes, Gaston County has a county police.
And Mecklenburg, which is a
And Charlotte
mega
Mecklenburg.
county.
And I've worked in both of them as a state agent.
As a business, economically, looking at it as a business vision, $6,000 is not much of an investment to get. I'd like to be able to take $6,000 to the bank and next week get a check for $25,000. So economically, I think that would be a good investment for Onslow County. And I might would have felt a little different about voting to approve it if it wasn't for replacement equipment. And we're looking at replacement equipment, not adding to the equipment that you already have. This is equipment that's going to be taken off the approved list by Minimum Training and Standards Commission, which they do every year. They remove certain devices from use in the state, and then you have to put them on the shelf. That's it.
Yes, Honorable Commissioner, we have to stay compliant with the state law.
And I think I've told you this some time ago, or maybe I've told some of your men, but you as the sheriff of this county, if you make a decision to start enforcing certain laws that's new, then you're going to have to answer to the voters in 2018, were you right or wrong? I'll say that publicly. So I think that's why I made the motion to approve, because I think you're getting replacement. I've been told you're getting replacement equipment except for 2. And I think $6,000 is a good investment for a $25,000 return. So business-wise and economically, and it's in your budget too, it's not added money. But I would also like to mention about the court appearances, because court appearances are something that the sheriff's office don't have no control over.
That's correct.
Cases get continued. You probably, those 73 cases that you had last year, probably a few of them are still pending, so you wouldn't have that data anyway. But you never know about a court case. It could last an officer 2 or 3 days, or it could last 2 seconds.
Exactly.
I found that most of the speeding citations that were issued either got reduced or pled out in court, or either they didn't show up in the failure to appear.
Or it could have been a warning citation, because a warning citation a lot of times will solve the problem. So it doesn't always have to be a court citation.
Do we
Yes.
have further?
Madam Chair, if I might, I have my traffic captain who might be able to clarify an issue too.
Well, since you're there, perhaps you could come forward, and I have a list here of radar guns that are going to be outdated. And this statement shows 6 of 2017. Would you look at this and see if it's inaccurate? So they're not going to be outdated next year, they're going to be outdated in 2017? The Gold Eagle, the Trapper, I mean, are these some of the guns that you have? If your first officer would like to speak there, while you're looking at that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Currently, we have 8 Pro 1000s that we obtained from the Highway Patrol last year at the beginning. Highway Patrol got rid of those knowing that they would be going off the approved list. And we have a Python 3, which is going to be on the approved list for probably as long as I'm in law enforcement, and the custom Golden Eagle 2. That is correct, Madam
So
Chair.
the Golden Eagle that's listed there won't go off until mid-year of 2017?
There's several different types of Golden Eagles. The one that we currently have is the newest version, the directional Golden Eagle 2, and it's not on the list to be removed.
Okay. Well, I have several documents here, but if the board has nothing further, then I will talk.
Okay.
Any further from the board?
I think he was going to tell us how long the sheriff department had been running radar before.
Under previous Sheriff Ed Brown, we received those 8 Pro 1000s at the beginning of last year. And then he allowed me to purchase the Python 3 through the point system through the Governor's Highway Safety Program. At the beginning of this year, we received the Golden Eagle 2 directional through the Governor's Highway Safety Program through our point system as well. I just want to mention, talking about education, Commissioner Williams, so far this year, since Sheriff Miller has taken office, we have spoken to over 12,000 military personnel concerning traffic safety. I know myself, I've spoken to DOT 3 times this year concerning certain complaints on roads where there's no speed limit signs. And as part of this grant, it also states in there that we have communication with Department of Transportation several times throughout the year to address areas that we're having problems. So through the grant, we're going to do that. So that's.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, talking about education, I believe one of the stipulations in the grant also is that there will be routine education. Plus, there will be a mandatory reduction of 20% of accidents, 40% increase in citations. Also, in the grant request, you stated you're going to be training 20 officers in the use of the radar device. How many certified law enforcement officers do you have right now for radar?
I would have to take a look at all the personnel records. I asked a couple weeks ago if you had any questions, and if that would have been posed to me, I would have had an exact, accurate number. But we just had 2 officers finish and pass the course so they're now radar certified. This is an ongoing issue.
Well,
training never stops.
Sure. And Sheriff, being you're going to train up 20 officers for radar use, and you have some units that are still viable, I'll call it, I would think that you would know how many officers that you currently have working radar, because if they're not certified, then it's not legal for them to be working.
Oh, you would be correct.
So, but we'll leave that point and we will move on. How many of the tickets that you wrote last year, I believe it was 79, if that's an accurate number, how many of those were written by officers with radar guns? Were all of those as a result of working radar?
Commissioner, if I had been posed that question 2 weeks ago, I would have researched it. Every court ticket needs to be researched individually, and I would have an answer for you tonight. However, I don't make up an answer. If I would have had the question earlier, I would have had a truthful answer.
Well, I thought you just might know some of this stuff off the top of your head.
And some of it I do.
Okay. Well, since you don't want me to discuss your job, I will discuss my job, because you're right. You're in charge of law enforcement. But my job, along with these 4 other commissioners, is the financing, the money, the revenue, the taxes that this county has.
And I take that very seriously as well.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that, because over the last few months, I have grown a little bit more concerned. I've heard of your vision, and I know the number of positions that you have, 238, which is the highest number of positions that the Sheriff's Department has had. I also know that an average of 12 vacancies has been at the Sheriff's Department over the last fiscal year, and the prior fiscal year, it was 10. And when I speak of numbers, I speak of fiscal years from July to July. So the previous fiscal year, you came into office in December, so I would not bring up a fiscal year that you had no influence over. So when I refer to last year, I am referring to last fiscal budget. This year, we granted 5 additional positions. It was your priority to take 4 of those and put them in detention and 1 on the road. That is solely your discretion, and I appreciate if that's where you want to put your manpower, well and good. I also would like to point out, because I have heard from you that there seems to be some concern that this is political and that there is some animosity towards you. And I want to be right up front and say there's no animosity from me. Sheriff, you have an awesome opportunity. You came into this office and the sky was the limit as far as what you could do with the Sheriff's Department. Your budget is at an all-time high. Your budget increased by 4% over the fiscal year prior to. We have purchased automobiles outside of your budget, outside of your $19,938 budget. We have purchased automobiles. We have done everything that we possibly could to assist you. This grant, which is expired on September 30th, by the way, but this grant, I explained to you the day I told you I would put it on the agenda, would come out of your money. I explained to you that that is the procedure for the county departments, and the training for those 20 officers would come out of your training department. Since that time, someone has made a huge issue over the $6,000, and you and I, Sheriff, we both know it's not about the $6,000. It never has been.
Right.
But beside that, that has been permitted to grow, even to the point that there are some that feel it necessary to donate money. Sheriff, I do know, and I hope you know,
I heard that.
any funds that are collected
Go to the county.
go to the county general fund.
True.
So I just want people to know that there is not a shortage. Your equipment replacement line in the budget is well over what you would need to purchase these guns outright with no stipulations. However, you have chosen over the past, you've asked for 24 more people. Even though this Board of Commissioners granted pay increases, which raised the salary of a beginning officer by $5,600, and raised a detention officer by $2,300, beginning salaries, increase of $2,300 and $5,600. And there are 600 other county employees who have not had an opportunity to have a market analysis. You have found your way to ask for your salary to be increased. You have asked that a new pay scale be awarded your officers. You have asked, presently, right upstairs, I have on my desk a request for 18 more vehicles, 2 pickup trucks, and by the time we add all the slide-out beds for your CSI equipment and all of that, that's an additional $600,000. And then I look and I see that you just spent $21,500 for 2 canine dogs. Sheriff, if it were such a compelling problem of traffic and radar guns, why, instead of buying canine guns or canine dogs, would you not just take that $21,500 and buy the guns outright? That's within you have that authority. And the reason you have that authority and that flexibility with different line items in your budget that have money in it is so when the need is that compelling, as you say this is, you can move forward on your own with just a strike of your signature and solve these problems. You have asked me about expanding your jurisdiction and taking over the airport. Everything that I have mentioned has a financial repercussion, and that falls to this board. Financial repercussions. I asked you, Sheriff, how much do you want me to raise taxes so you can have everything that you want? And
Madam Chair, zero.
I will conclude my comments and let you speak by saying, at no time, no department, no one will bring anything before me as an individual, and I'm a taxpayer too, as an individual, I will not rubber stamp anything. I will always look at it and see if I think in my authority the expenditure, whether tangible or long range, is viable. The floor is yours, Sheriff.
Madam Chair, do not raise taxes. I don't want you to raise taxes. The people behind me don't want you to raise taxes. The money has to be given properly where the needs are, okay? I can give you items in the budget that are questionable, but that's not why we're here today. When it comes to canines, canines get old. They die. They provide, we provide replacement canines that we need. This spring, canines were used, and they saved a life. Okay? Canines are needed as one of the tools, one of the equipment, you might say, for the sheriff's office. And they need to be trained, they need to have veterinary appointments, and so forth. So this is a replacement canine. This is not a new thing. My salary increase, forget it. I took this position. I knew what the salary was going to be. Don't even go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want an increase. As Commissioner Bright, I will refuse an increase in my salary. When it comes to the 5 officers that the last budget cycle, I felt the need to put 4 of them in the detention center for one purpose and one purpose only: to protect the county from litigation. There are a lot of things going on inside the jail, inside the detention center. The inmates have civil rights. They need to be protected from themselves and also from other inmates. In order to do that, it takes manpower and woman power. Okay? That is why I made the decision to have 4 detention officers, because I don't want the county to get sued because of lack of supervision. Okay? Then obviously, one deputy. You cannot provide 24/7 coverage with one deputy. So I made the decision to internally reassign that deputy and put that position in narcotics, because for years and years, we've had 5 narcotics officers. I'd like to be open to the public. Let the public know we have grown as a county. And just because we have not had the planning in past years does not mean we stop planning. We have to grow with the county population, and the county population will continue to increase. Was the sky a limit when my administration took over? I would say not. Being a conservative, being fiscally conservative, I only ask for what we need. I do not ask for anything that I would like to have, what we need. And that takes planning, it takes thought. So I think I'm not surprised, board, whatever you decide tonight. I have given you what I can. It was all truthful, every word of it. Is a need that we see in Onslow County, and I hope that you would take about 15 seconds to think about it, because the people have spoken, and I have listened. Thank you, board.
Before I call the question, Sheriff, I would just like to ask, what departments do you want me to take the money away from to give to you if you do not want me to raise taxes? Because I don't have a printing press back here.
I don't want any department to suffer because of the sheriff's office. That is not what I'm asking for. That was a misconception, maybe just on your part, but no, I don't want anybody penalized for what they need, because there are other needs in the county. Other departments may have to grow as well. But there are things in the budget that could use a second look.
There is a huge difference in general fund and tourism money or Eastern Region money, which can only be used for economic development. Tourism money cannot be used for any of your needs. And I have heard conversations and seen letters that say, well, they built a gazebo or they got an alligator. And that just shows that people truly do not understand the financial workings.
Madam Chair, that did not come from me.
So for the listening public, it wouldn't make any difference if we had $300 million in tourism money. I can't give the Sheriff's Department any of it. So if there's no further, I'll call the question. At this time, I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. No.
No surprise.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, our next item was the consent agenda. I believe nothing was pulled off of that. We'll move right on to our second public comment.
Yes, ma'am. Item 7 is public comment.
Do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Madam Chair. This is the second public comment period. During this second public comment period, there's a 5-minute time limit. In accordance with the board's rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period at the end of the agenda. Citizens shall have the opportunity to talk about any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners have control. The first individual that signed up to speak is Willie, I believe that is Avril of 299 Ramsey Road, Jacksonville. Mr. Averill, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners, fellow citizens.
Excuse me, is your time clock working? Oh, there it is.
Now it is.
Okay.
Good evening,
Go.
Commissioners, fellow residents, Sheriff. On September 23rd, 2015, I read in the Jacksonville Daily News about the article, Commissioners Staying for Grant for the Radar Gun. While reading the article, I was concerned as it seemed that our elected sheriff was not getting the support by either commissioners. Mr. Jack Bright, in the article, Mr. Bright made a motion to advance the discussion. No one seconded it. That's as far as it went. There was a comment in there made that, in her opinion, that's you, ma'am, Ms. Eichner, it's not personally directed toward the sheriff. That really puzzled me. Why would an article put that? You guys are commissioners. I hold you as professionals. I hope that petty personal games are not part of the business. This article brought me here tonight, in that tonight I actually saw the sheriff stand before you and before us, the people of Onslow County. You gave him the time. That's something that's really important to me. The reason why is I feel this is the greatest country on earth. Statement that I can say because I've traveled a lot. I have a little twang or whatever you want to call it in my vocabularies because I have different bloodline, let's say. But I can tell you this is a great country. One of the things that we have here that's great is the rule of law. I live on 299 Ramsey Road. If you guys don't know about Ramsey Road, it ends on Kellam Loop Road. About 3 months ago, we had a gentleman at 2 o'clock in the morning was going in the excess speed of 100 miles an hour. At the end of Ramsey Road in Kellam, there is a doctor office. There's a berm. This gentleman hit that berm, hit the top of the doctor's office. Today, the berm is removed. Now there's a cement boulder there. The next person that hits that cement that's as far as he's going to go. He's not going to hit the office building. So that's what brought me the radar gun here. I've heard about the fire department. I've heard about the airport advisory road. I heard about the proclamations we done and the sale of the surplus property. In all of it, it's been educational to me. I really enjoy coming here and seeing how this is moving forward. So in closing, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity you gave the sheriff tonight. This really helps us, the citizens of Onslow County, when you give him the proper time. But just to not even give him a time to speak, will bring people like me out here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next individual that signed up to speak is Kevin O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. You were just talking about fiscal responsibility. The ad valorem taxes that you approved down in North Topsail Beach are sitting at the bottom of the New River Inlet. When are you going to change the ad valorem taxes back to the 60-40 split the way that it was? This reads, North Topsail Beach has suffered severe erosion even with the town's many efforts such as a sandbag wall. This is dated September 21st, before we got the last 14 days or 10 days of storms. Today's paper, North Topsail Beach, and there's 4 Dipsy dumpsters down at the north end. The parking lot completely disappeared, and this is all the wood that's at the north end of North Topsail Beach. WITN News 2 weeks ago, the week of the 21st, North Topsail Beach, Stuart Terrell basically came back and said the situation along the beach changed from one year to the next. So the money from the ad valorem split that went down to North Topsail Beach because they needed all the additional money for all that grants so they could build a seawall hasn't even made it past the first 2 stages. Phase 1 in the water, Phase 2 in the water. I have a nice truck. Just fixed it up. I got a new transmission in it. Had Kenny's do the front end, and I got it running good and it's paid for. I bought a Land Rover yesterday. It's $40,000. The payment is $800 a month, but I can't afford to put the maintenance or repairs or the premium unleaded gas in the vehicle. Is there any chance that the Onslow County Commissioners, as well as the taxpayers of Onslow County, specifically Jacksonville, can lend me the money so I can put the repairs and maintenance and unleaded gas into my Land Rover? Since we're talking about sand, I'm assuming everybody's going to tell me to go pound sand. September 1st, when we're talking about the housing market, Stuart Terrell, about 84% of the town's dwellings are secondary homes, Terrell said. That's not an accurate statement. The statement should read, about 84% of the town's dwellings are secondary homes that are for-profit businesses. All you have to do is go into the webpage and look at the houses, and they have a rental income. 3 years ago, I came up here and I showed this board a house that had $1.3 million of rental income for the year. The ones I looked at this weekend, they had a mortgage of about $50,000, and they were pulling in about $180,000 gross for the year that was booked as of May 31st. So the for-profit businesses in which they're making all this money, they can't afford to put sand on the beach, but yet that money can come back to the city of Jacksonville and they can use it properly. The reason that the board switched to the ad valorem is because this board doesn't have the courage to sit down and say that we need money into the schools, or we need money into the sheriff's department, and we need money into emergency services. When I looked at the fire commission, it basically said, due to, oh my gosh, I just went blank. Due to, I apologize, I went blank on it. But due to limited resources for the fire commissions. Bear Creek, which we were just finished talking about, Swansboro is going to be shelling out the additional money. It's not a lot of money, but they're going to be shelling out the additional money in order to get the additional body into Bear Creek because their insurance ratings are going up. So when I read that and I take all this and I put it together, I can paint the picture. Now, the reason that you changed the tax method last year, it wasn't to hook North Topsail Beach up. It was to put the additional money in the Onslow County's pockets without having to raise everybody's taxes. Instead, what you did is you took it to the city of Jacksonville, and the city of Jacksonville is the one that's paying for that. It is in the water. North Topsail Beach does not need that money. They can write it off. They can write all that money off. They can write the taxes, they can write the fees, everything. Then when you go to the for rent by owner, a lot of these people aren't even claiming the money. Plus, you have to add in the full-time residents that rent their houses out for a few months a year. Because there's an awful lot of people that are renting their houses out to their brother Darrell this week, and then their other brother Darrell next week. What was that, the Bob Newhart show? That was the Bob Newhart show. So they're renting it out from 1 week to their family member this week and their other brother Darrell the next week. And you're talking about fiscal responsibility. Let's call it the way that it is. Thank you very much.
The next individual that signed up to speak is Gene Innett of 243 Clay Hill Road. Mr. Innett, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Board of Commissioners, I am simply appalled at your apparent lack of respect to the highest ranking law enforcement officer in this county. What makes you think that you can talk with this man in the manner that you talked with him tonight? I'm not going to take 5 minutes because I'm almost through, but I'm coming to this podium one more time as a citizen of Onslow County, and I'm going to ask each one of you to resolve whatever it is between you and this sheriff, perceived or actual, because board members, it's time. No, it's past time to set aside whatever differences y'all may have with this man.
that may adversely affect your service to all the citizens of this county. Thank you.
Madam Chair, that's the last individual that signed up for the second public comment period.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, do you have some manager comments tonight?
Yes, ma'am, I do. Several comments. First of all, I would like to take the opportunity to clarify for the members of the audience and the watching public something that was mentioned by Mr. Kevin O'Connor. In terms of the amount of money that's given to North Topsail Beach, the commissioners have appropriated tourism money to the town of North Topsail Beach. The comments made by Mr. O'Connor relative to the ad valorem taxes, those are property taxes. Those are sale taxes. Actually, it's a method of distribution. Sales taxes can be distributed one of two ways, either by capita, per capita, which is by the number of people that live in an area, or by ad valorem. When the county shifted from per capita to ad valorem, more money did come to Onslow County government. At the same time, other towns that receive sales tax based on a method of distribution would have gone either up or down based on the specific unique situation of that town. How much property tax they have in the town, the amount of value of the property, called the ad valorem value, versus the amount of population in the town. So in the comments relative to ad valorem dollars being washed away, I just want to be clear for the members of the public, tourism dollars were appropriated from Onslow County to North Topsail Beach. Ad valorem dollars are actually sales tax dollars received by North Topsail Beach as their own source of revenue, and they receive that as one of the two methods of distribution. So that's a little maybe in the weeds of sales tax law, but there is a distinction between an appropriation of a grant from one unit of government to another, that's property tax or sales tax, and the appropriation of a grant from one unit of government to another that's based in occupancy tax or tourism money. Other than that, two or three things, Madam Chair, members of the board. Some people would say we were fortunate to have avoided the hurricane. I will say, since I have a mic, we were blessed. We were very blessed. The Bahamas took an awful hit. I spent a lot of time at the Emergency Operations Center with emergency services and all of our responders. I will tell you, Commissioners, that we are in the process of scheduling after actions on that event. Some people call it a hot wash. We can always do things to improve. And we certainly found that out, and we will be bringing recommendations back to this board, Madam Chair, on ways that we might change the hurricane response procedures that we already have in place, specifically as it relates to sheltering. This evening, the Board of Commissioners ratified an agreement that the county signed with the Onslow County Board of Education just prior to this event, which allows Onslow County to support shelters. I believe it was after Fran, and Mr. Bryson might have the exact numbers, but I remember we sheltered between 6,000 and 7,000 people. I see Carol Hurst Long shaking her head. Outs is one of our team members, and so we shelter a lot of people after a hurricane. All of us, and I'm not wearing my badge, but many of us in county government have a little red bar on our badge, and it says Disaster Ready Team. We have dual job descriptions. So during a normal course of operations, I'm a county manager. During a disaster, I'm still the county manager, but there's a whole nother realm of law that we abide by and duties that we perform based on emergencies. And certainly all of our first responders are critical when we hit those times in a community's life. I remember in '96, people said, oh, there'll never be a hurricane. You know, the last one was Hazel, and it won't come again. And then we had Bertha, and then we had Fran, and then we realized, you know, we might ought to have preparations for hurricanes around here, and we did. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then into Monday, Onslow County was operating under a state of emergency. One of the last reports that we received from the Newport office of the National Weather Service was that there was going to be another band of heavy rain and showers coming through between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock Monday evening. They said we would have one band in the morning and then another band in the evening. Norman Bryson took that call from the National Weather Service, and we talked. We informed the board of that, and the decision was that the board would cancel Monday evening's meeting. Just for a point of clarification for those in the room and those that might be listening by TV, a special meeting of the board, which this is, that makes up for the meeting, the regular meeting that was missed on Monday, requires by law a 48-hour notice. So this evening, assuming that the board would continue to meet at its regular time of day, which is 7 p.m., this evening was the next available time that statutorily the Board of Commissioners could meet to make up for the meeting that was missed on Monday night. Earlier I mentioned, and this is kind of my last comment, although it might be a long one, ma'am. Earlier I mentioned that all first responders were with us. We had a meeting Friday morning, actually Thursday and Friday we had meetings, but we had a meeting Friday morning of all of our participants, all of our first responders. They continuously put themselves out there. And I don't want the opportunity for this televised meeting to go by without mentioning two things that are coming up on Friday, October 16th. This is something that's very important. On Friday, October 16th at 4 o'clock, we'll have the groundbreaking of the Public Safety Memorial. That's been a project years in the making. We just recently received a check for $51,000 from the Firefighters Association, and that was the amount of money necessary to complete that memorial. And so that memorial is dedicated to the memories and to honor those people that have died in the line of duty. Law enforcement, paramedics, firefighters, all in Onslow County that are not in municipalities. So these are volunteers and county paid staff and volunteers. So certainly the public and first responders are invited out there. Following that, at 5 o'clock on Friday, October 16th, here in this campus, the Board of Commissioners and a lot of members of our public are hosting a dinner and appreciation for all first responders, firefighters, rescue, everybody. Golden Corral, Mission Barbecue, Smithfields are catering that. This is being sponsored by private funds. Jones Onslow EMC, Minji's Bottling Group, Sanders Ford, First Citizens Bank, Duke Energy, Onslow Memorial Hospital, and numerous other businesses in Jacksonville and Onslow County have literally donated thousands of dollars to provide every emergency responder that's able to come and their families with a meal that evening, just to say thank you. And this is not something that's been done in the past, and it's being done to honor a first responder community at the time when around the country first responders have been targeted and killed. And that's not only law enforcement, but also firefighters as well. And so I just want to make sure that those two events all on the same date were in fact reiterated October 16th, 4 o'clock for the groundbreaking and 5 o'clock for a community-sponsored first responder appreciation dinner. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you. At this time, it's commissioner comments. Commissioner Williams, would you like to start tonight?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My prayers go out as well, as was stated by our attorney, for the residents in South Carolina. And I do know that Onslow County is a very blessed county, and I'm thankful and very grateful of that. I'd also like to applaud the winners this past week for the Minority Enterprise Development Week at the Chamber of Commerce, and we gave a proclamation as well for that event and the efforts. And Mr. Brennan Williams of Belgrade Community received the Minority Entrepreneur of the Year, and Houston Chanel received the Linda L. Richardson Business Advocate of the Year. And I would just like to say thank you publicly to those two that received the award, because they are great pillars of this community. They have provided a lot of effort in moving forward in the community, and I'd just like to thank you publicly. The Aging Planning Board, which is one of the boards that I'm on as a commissioner, I attended that meeting, and I was very pleased to find out certain things that I didn't know, and so many benefits to our community that sometimes we as citizens, we don't think about and don't realize. But the population 55 and over, they have there at the Senior Citizen Center adult daycare. And I figured I could actually sign up for that, Madam Chair, because I'm definitely in that 55 years and above, and I told them I made an error in the meeting that I was 56. I was sharing with my husband. He said, "Million, you are 59 years of age. I know you didn't tell those people you were 56." I said, "Well, I don't know. I used to be 56 at one time, so."
Just pick a number.
Yeah, there you go. But I was very impressed by the services that are there if you need to drop off your loved one and, you know, you're a caregiver at home and you need to spend a couple of hours doing some shopping or whatever you need to do. You can drop them off. They provide hot meals and educational activities, and there's a lot going on, and it's only $35 per day. So take advantage of what we have to offer here in our community. Also, I'd like to say thank you again to the airport, Chris White, and the USO, and for making the accommodations for our military that come into that beautiful airport. And also, don't forget to, when you're leaving out of Onslow County, it's OAJ, is our airport. We need to support our airport. It is beautiful out there. I don't know, and I've stated this before, if you've not gone out there, you know, doesn't make sense for Chris and all of his crew to have all that fine, beautiful atmosphere out there. But think about, you know, flying out of OAJ. Also, I would just like to thank everyone that was here this evening. And I just feel, in reference to the grant requests for the sheriff, that the monies are there. It's not so much of stopping something. You know, everything in life is about how you perceive things, how you look at things. And I see it as an opportunity that the money is there available. And Madam Chair stated it earlier, without stipulations. They come with stipulations. And if you can go that route without a stipulation, why not? The money is there available. So I just look forward to working with the sheriff. I still look forward to our meeting sometime next week. The sheriff has invited me down there. And Sheriff, I look forward to that visit. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you attending this evening.
Mr. Jarman?
Good night.
Mr. Bright?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Norman Bryson for all the work you did with getting us through that situation with storm. Wasn't really a hurricane, but we were that was looking down our throat. And Sheriff, for your contributing to the law enforcement and having people stand guard on the spots, and also Department of Transportation. I think, Norm, we had to call on them to barricade some streets, different places. So we couldn't do that without all the people putting their heads together and coming up with a plan and making us safe during that situation with the storm. We didn't really know what we were going to have. We always try to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and I think we did a good job on it. Other than that, I thank everybody for coming tonight, and thank all the people that spoke. You're passionate about what you were speaking about, and really come up here and let us know what you think, and that's important for the board. I think it's important for staff, and I think it's important for the sheriff and emergency management. So other than that, good night. Have a safe trip home.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Thank you. Thank everybody for being here, and good night.
I'll just sort of wrap things up quickly. Just a couple comments that I heard several times tonight in reference to the past meeting. When we have documentation in front of us and we have read through the documentation, people that present an item to us are given all the time. There's no clock ticking down. They are permitted to say whatever they feel that they need to say. The fact that there are no questions does not mean that a person has not had an opportunity to say what he thinks. This issue, I think, has been well discussed in all different venues, and I fully suspect in the morning it will be rehashed and analyzed all over again. And I would say, as I have said many times, even though it is quoted that it's blatant politics, there is no hard feelings on my part. There's nothing personal. I feel I have a mandate from the people, as well as others feel like they have a mandate. I have honored my mandate, and I've done my job. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.